Welcome back, everybody, to an episode of Failing Forward. With me today is actually a guest who I think I've been in contact with longer than any other guest that we've had on the show. You're a very busy lady, though, and I'm super, super happy to have you here. Rachel Pastor, guys,
Thank
please welcome
you.
her.
Thank you.
How are
Thank
you
you so
today?
much for having me. I'm doing excellent. I'm just happy to be here with you.
That's awesome. I'm happy to have you here as well. Like I
Thank you.
said, this has been something that's been in the works a while. You're busy. We've been busy. We got it going, though.
Yep.
And truly, I think this might be one of our most unique segments we've done. Purely because you're a very unique person, Rachel.
That's such a great compliment.
I
love
thought
that.
you'd like it.
Yes.
Because I like being unique too. And we're kind of on the same wavelength.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you.
It's funny that you say that, though, because I think in life there are those people you do interact with, and it can be the first time, and right away, just within a few sentences, you know, oh, this is someone like I can talk with for a while.
Yeah.
You and I had that on our very, very
Yes.
first video call.
Absolutely.
Like, as soon as I was like, yeah, tell me a little about yourself. You, I think, said 2 sentences, and I was like, oh, this is my girl. Like, we're gonna get along.
Well, yeah, what's funny is I got on, I'm like, I have no idea. And I always do that, getting into new conversations,
Sure.
no idea where it's going, but always just being open to, wherever that leads. And that could be anything, right? And I totally felt that from you and our first conversation. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I am too. And I want to actually touch on something you said there, because I think that actually paints a picture of who you are. At least at this point in your life, is you're very open-minded, and I don't know if this is necessarily a term, but I'm going to use it, open-eyed, in terms of seeking opportunity. When you came in today, I asked you about your morning, and you said, I went and got a workout in a gym I haven't been to before. And you said immediately, because it's an opportunity to meet new people, to get to know a new program, a new, experience in terms of my own physical fitness. Not a lot of people approach life that way too much. We tend to stay in our comfort zones. And it seems like you, on a regular basis, like to venture outside of that comfort zone because you know there's opportunity there. Is that correct to say?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I would say that so I mean, it all goes into my mission in life, and I'm truly into, living into the integrity of that. And part of that is I want everybody to get to, if they were to get to the end of their life, to really feel like they really truly went for it. And part of that to me means really stepping out each and every day and trying those new things, stepping out of your comfort zone, meeting new people, being open-minded. That is how you truly are going to experience life to the fullest. And that is my hope for anybody. And so that's why I step into that every day, because if I need to live in that, if I want to bring that to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Um, you threw me off just because I didn't really expect to go down this way, especially this early in the episode.
Mm.
But that's where my thought process was this morning. I've mentioned it, I think, once or twice before in other episodes. I'm someone who likes to get up early and go on a walk first thing, either like in total silence or throw on like a podcast and just kind of like, that's my time to like wake up, let my mind start moving and thinking critically. And on my walk this morning, I was thinking about how, as we tend to get older in life, we get so set in who we are based on what we do that we really kind of prevent ourselves from continuing to change, to evolve, to adapt. Specifically when you're looking at, like, say, an elderly couple who's now retired. They've moved down to Arizona or Florida. They've done that traditional thing. And, don't get me wrong, they still have relationships. They have friends. Usually they like to be a part of a community where there's activities going on. But those new experiences kind of start to stop. And when that happens, our brain stops making all those new roadways and streets and connections. And we do that so much as children and even into young adulthood. And man, I think even by the time we hit like our 30s, we've had a job for a while. We have our group of friends. We have a family. The world gets a lot smaller the older we get.
Yeah.
And we kind of stop looking for those new experiences, even if it's something small, like getting our workout in a different place, or trying something new in that regard. It's still something you do every day. You work out every day, but you did it with someone new in a different environment under a new stress. There's opportunity to grow in that. And
Absolutely. It doesn't need to be earth shattering things every single day.
not at all.
Yeah. It's It could be as simple as just trying a new workout.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I'm glad you said that too, because I think, and I'm guilty of this as well in the past, we feel like if we want to make significant change in our life or even just change how we think about some things, we feel like it has to be something very significant in order to do so,
Mhm.
but that's not true. It can be a very small change in our routine can introduce us to a new person who can provide very significant impact,
Mhm.
as an example. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be huge. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be across the country or, anything to that extent.
Absolutely not, and actually, the more we talk and if we're gonna, get in talk about my story
We
and you
absolutely are.
eh what we just talked about is gonna be such a theme throughout it all, so,
hmm
I'm
I think that
excited
was a
for
great
that.
place to start.
Yeah.
I like that. So I want to tell everybody a little bit about you for the viewers who aren't from Northern Colorado, Colorado in general. Um, but you are a weight loss and transformation expert,
Mhm.
and that is going to tie very closely into your story that we're going to
Mhm.
hear shortly. But you're a mom, a wife. You're the founder of the fitness festival, which I've been to a couple of years in the past. Phenomenal events, huge events,
Mhm.
and it kind of honestly blows my mind that that became just an idea at some point.
Mhm.
Those are the kind of things I love to really sit back and go, wow, like at one point this was just a thought in someone's head and
Mhm.
look what it's grown to. Um, and you've had some adversity in that as well as a founder of those events, with everything we have going on throughout the world right now in terms of COVID and
Mhm.
restrictions
Mhm.
and guidelines and things like that. So putting a lot of people in close contact in a big event area, not typically what most people are trying to do. So there's some adversity in that, some learning opportunity in that as well. Um, but you've had some opportunities to do some amazing things just even outside of that. You were part of is it Transform
Mhm.
with Chris and Heidi
Yep.
Powell?
Yep.
And how long were you doing that?
I coached with them for 3 years.
For 3 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, but before we dive into kind of the specifics of who Rachel is now,
Mhm.
I'd like to invite you to kind of take our listeners through your story that you shared with me the first time we spoke, because one, there's so much impact in the story alone, but two, and this is probably why you and I have been able to have such great conversations together. You're somebody who did decide to attach purpose to that story, even though it was not ideal in any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And it's led you to such an amazing life now. So would you mind if we kind of started it and kind of where things picked
Yeah.
up for you in
Yeah.
the beginning areas of your life?
Yeah, absolutely, and I really I'm gonna tell you my story of transformation, and I really do feel like we all transform all throughout our lives many different times.
hmm
But we will have transformations that are, some are bigger than others, right? They are pivotal moments in our lives. And for me, that is this time in my life. When I was 15 years old, I became a heroin addict. And I continued that heroin addiction for 5 years. It went into my 20s.
Wow.
And it really was me searching for happiness. It was me for searching for the joy I saw in other people. I really, really wanted to find that for myself. And I ended up finding it in a boyfriend and a drug addiction. And at that time, that felt like it fulfilled that need. Well, what ended up happening is my life became and evolved around that addiction. And so eventually it led me to being homeless. And when I was in my 20s, I had the same boyfriend the whole time. And at this point in my life, he was the last person I had left in my life because I hadn't talked to my family in years. And I really, it just was us. And our whole life was like everything we did from the moment we woke up in the morning, it was revolved around evolved around feeding this addiction. And so when I was in my 20s, he passed away he overdosed and passed away.
Gosh.
And I'm homeless and I'm all alone.
hmm
And was truly at that moment for me death or change. And the truth is that I didn't want to live. I was completely done because I couldn't see anything else but this life that I was living, which was complete darkness, complete darkness. And I had tried to change many, many times. It wasn't that I hadn't tried or there really was times along the way, but so I just decided I'd give it this one last chance. And so I did. I got I sold everything I had, which really was nothing. There was this car that we would sleep in that didn't run, and I sold that car, for 5 I got $500 for it, and, I bought a plane ticket to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And so I knew a lady there, and I had known her from earlier on in my life. Actually, her daughter had been an addict with me earlier on, and she had taken her daughter and moved out and moved away, and they both, she had changed her life, and so anyway, she said that I could rent a bedroom from her, and I got on that plane, and she told me, "If you ever use, you will never be welcome here again." And I decided on that plane, I said, "When I step off this plane, I'm never gonna use again." And not only that, I wasn't gonna look for a methadone clinic. I wasn't gonna look for anything like that. I was just gonna go for it. Like, and I did. I stepped off that plane and I say I did so easily, but honestly, it was the most painful, hardest thing I have ever done to walk through that recovery. I had spent so much of my life that a lot of people spend learning who they are and going through a lot of growth in their life. I had spent that time chasing an addiction and living on the street. I really and not feeling my feelings, right? So I had no idea who I was. I had no idea how to feel my feelings. I had no idea what I like to do in life. I had no idea who I was at all. And it was me starting completely over. And that was a very, very long road, and it was small changes. It was truly small changes, so it started with one thing each day. I had one promise to myself every single day. Every single day I got out of bed, my one promise is that I was not gonna use that day. It didn't matter what happened with anything else. It was my one promise is I wasn't gonna use that day, and so the more that I kept into that, the more I would start to move forward, and eventually, I had someone invite me to a gym. And, I I had no my thought wasn't like, "Yeah, I wanna go work out," or anything like that, like, it wasn't a part of my life or anything
Mhm.
that I knew I would enjoy, but I was very desperate to create some healthy relationships because I hadn't had any, and so, I was like, "Sure," and it was great because we went and we walked on the treadmill and we watched TV and we had conversation, and it was very much what I needed. And, every time she would invite me to go back, I was more than happy to go because we were, like, having this connection with each other that, again, I hadn't had. And so, we continued to go back, and the more we'd go back, the more things we would choose to like, that we'd do, right?
Mhm.
We'd push a little harder, we tried new things. Well, I remember the first time I went and tried a spin class. Went in, and, I'm
That's a
sitting.
bold first class to try.
It really was. I had no idea what I was in for, absolutely nothing. I'd never even seen a video. I was just like, "Whatever, we're gonna sit
Yeah.
on the bike and ride, whatever." So, get in there and everybody starts going and, sure enough, like, everybody's like, the music's loud and people are getting all excited and hooting and
Mhm.
hollering, and my endorphins just start kicking, I'm just, like, all over the place. And, in so many ways, like, just felt it was giving me something. I remember driving home from that and thinking, "Whatever that was, whatever I just experienced, I want more of that." And it was so uplifting, and it was like I had finally found that light that I had been looking for, like, I had finally felt a piece of that I had been searching for. And so I went back and I dove even more into it and even more into it. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, whatever this is that I'm experiencing, I need to bring this to other people because I kept thinking of all the people I met along the way on my journey that were so hurt and so lost. and that were searching for the exact same thing that I had been searching for. And I was like, "I have got to bring this to other people." And truly, that is when my mission in life really, really was born, is that to impact the masses with the joy. And that joy I found through health and fitness, right? And so that mission really brought me to where I am today. And it's something I live into every single day, but it was born in that time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That I feel like that was I got more out of that story that time than I did the first time I heard it. And I'm really not sure what the difference was, because the way because you've obviously told this story before. You're very
mhm,
comfortable in this story because you know the power in this story. But something about it, I think it's that we're in person. If I
mhm,
had to identify something right now today, because the first time you told me that, it was a video call.
yeah,
Um, but man, I can feel you when you talk about that story,
yeah,
and that's why I knew right away this was someone I had to sit down with. And that's why we have a lot in common, because a lot of those beliefs you have about yourself in terms of where your purpose comes from,
mhm,
is where I found mine as well.
mhm,
And there's so much power in that. There
mhm,
really is. Um, there's a couple of things that I was thinking about as you were kind of walking us through that. And one, it's not uncommon for people who struggle with mental health of any kind, significant or insignificant, to find an attraction or an appeal in fitness. That's such a normal thing these days for
mhm.
for people to find. Is there anything that you think does draw people to that more than other things specifically? Have you ever kind of dove into that a
From,
little bit?
the mental health
In
aspect?
terms of why people just feel better. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people know, like, oh, like you're creating endorphins. You're kind of living in
Mhm,
that stressful moment. You're becoming a little more comfortable with it. But
mhm,
I because you reach out to a specific demographic in terms of your health and transformation clientele, which we'll get into in a moment.
mhm,
Um, but is that a regular conversation you guys have together in terms of how fitness can be beneficial for someone struggling with mental health?
mhm. Yeah, and I do really believe it to be what it does in your brain,
Mhm.
and even thinking about the addiction that I was coming from and what it was doing in my brain, very, very similar, right? Very similar in the way that it acts. So I believe that that really is the draw for why they do. Just like me. I mean, I wasn't attracted necessarily to fitness. I was attracted to the other elements, right? I was attracted to connecting. I was attracted to, and I do believe that to be in fitness. People are looking for connection, and they will go to a group fitness class, right? They'll go work out with other people. There is a healthy connection made there. And that's one thing I was looking for. I had no idea the feelings that it would bring. And that was something that just was created once I got there, and I think that is true for other people. I think that, they might go for other reasons or maybe they heard it will help those things, but what keeps them going is because they were able to fill it for themselves, right? And it
Mhm.
was created. And then that's then put in of like, "Okay, this is something I need to do."
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I'm somebody who has a little bit of an addictive personality. If I find something I like, or something that I feel good doing, I'll stick with it for a long time. I have a really hard time kind of not going down the wormhole
Mhm.
and staying with it. Uh, and I think that's a big reason why I've been able to draw out so many benefits from my own experience with fitness,
Mhm.
or just exercise, physical activity in general,
Mhm.
because I love that feeling. And
Mhm.
you keep chasing that feeling. Even on the days you're not really in the mood to go do a
Mhm.
workout, you're a little part of you, that little voice in your back of your head's like, "What? Remember that feeling though?"
Mhm.
Like there's something there kind of drawing you in. And obviously there are negatives to having an addictive personality as well. You have to be a little bit more cautious in terms of the vices or
Mhm.
substances that are implemented in life. Um, but there's a lot of benefits to having an addictive personality as well.
Yeah.
I think, and I've noticed it in other people as well,
Well,
where
I
they can just go
yeah.
with certain things.
Well, absolutely, and the thing is that we all have addictions.
Yeah.
And there will always be addictions. You're anytime you leave one addiction, you will replace it with another addiction. I remember
Hmm.
sitting with a therapist and she was like, "You do realize that you have replaced your other addiction with like fitness now."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. We replace one addiction with another. And there's healthier addictions and there's addictions that are hurtful addictions, right? So food is an addiction, which I'll
Of
probably talk
course.
about that in a little bit, but,
Sure.
yeah, food is absolutely an addiction, so many things that we do throughout the day, and just knowing, you can choose into what your addictions will be, which I know is sometimes hard for people to connect to that.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, I was choosing to be a heroin addict. I'm very big into choice. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very big into, that me realizing that I was in complete control of my life and that I had the choice and I made those choices every single day, was a massive part of my transformation. Because I had spent so many years into different, into addictions in my life, feeling like I had no control over them. They had complete control over me,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I personally believe that we choose. And so that being said, if you can choose, right, then why would you not you can choose healthier addictions, right? If we're going to
Yes.
replace one addiction with another addiction. That is very simply said because I know when somebody is in the deepest, darkest, trust me, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
When they're in the deepest, darkest moments of an addiction, it's very hard to be in that place and think that you actually could just wake up the next morning and, "Hey,
Right.
I'm not gonna do this anymore."
Right. It very
It
much feels like it's the addiction choosing you.
Mhm,
Yeah. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Because as I've shared in a past episode, a big transformative piece for me was deciding that my depression did not have the firm hold on me that I was giving it credit for. Um, I described it as being certain about my depression. I was certain that it would always be there. It would always dictate my life.
mhm,
It would determine my end result.
mhm,
Um, but over time, not immediately, not from
mhm,
one day to the next, but
mhm,
as you start implementing these disciplines, these different thought
mhm,
processes, these
mhm,
different practices, you do have the ability to transition that mindset to something more of changing the perspective of the addiction, changing the perspective of your state of mental health.
mhm,
Um, and I think that's probably one of the most crucial lessons people can hear that no one's talking about. Because
mhm,
again, as you and I have discussed in the past, the purpose of the show is to bring light to those things that we don't genuinely feel comfortable
mhm,
discussing. We're all going through our own things. We all have our own demons. Some of us with addiction, some of us with mental health, some of us struggling with self worth, whatever it is.
mhm,
But by understanding that other people are going through these dark spaces and have their own perception of it,
mhm,
it does give us the ability to start questioning our own circumstance.
mhm,
When you think you're all alone and you're the only one battling this, it's very easy to get stuck in believing that the way you think about it or your perception of it is the only way to think about it. And there is power in understanding that there is other forms, there is other perspectives.
mhm,
Um, I really like the way you voiced that. That was very beautifully said. And I think it's something I've always known, but I've never really attached those words to it. And even in something like that, I think there's impact there too. Although the end story maybe was the same for both of us, the fact that you
mhm,
just worded it differently still allows me to look
mhm,
at my own story a little differently as well.
mhm,
Wow. Um, so you've gone through this enormous portion of adversity. What's that timeline, by the way? You said that you started the story at about 15.
Mhm.
Now by the time how long were you in Hawaii?
So I was about 21 when I moved to Hawaii.
Okay.
I was just turning 21, and then I was in Hawaii for about 3 years.
Okay.
Mhm.
And did any form of this decision to start assisting others formulate in Hawaii, or was this
Mhm.
after you'd come back?
No, 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 this happened there. I decided there, I said, "I don't know what it looks like,
Mhm.
but in some way, I'm gonna bring this to other people. I'm gonna
Mhm.
work in the health and fitness industry and somehow bring this what I've found to others." So that formulated there.
That's so unreal how similar your conversation with yourself was, as mine was with myself. Like, literally, it was, "I don't know how, but I'm gonna start, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna start by with this step,"
yeah,
and it evolves over time, it gains momentum over time. That's just so unreal to me that it was, like, the same verbiage and everything. It's completely different scenarios,
uh-huh,
different situations,
yeah.
same conversation. We're taking a short break from our episode to inform you that season 1 of the Failing Forward podcast is brought to you by Atlas Nutrition. Guys, Atlas Nutrition is a brand that I've known for really since they started. But more importantly, I've known the people that started this company since I was a little kid. These are people dedicated to helping you reach your overall health and fitness goals. They're a team of experts who have been committed to helping others for their entire life. Regardless of what you have in mind for your health and fitness, they absolutely have a coach and a program fit for you. They offer personalized plans offering everything from weight loss, body transformation, digestive health, corrective nutrition, performance nutrition, and even contest prep. And I myself am absolutely someone who would testify to what they're able to do. Just a little over a month ago, I contacted one of their senior coaches, Lauren, to tell her that I was actually experiencing some inflammation in my digestive system. Actually, to be quite honest, I didn't know that's what I was experiencing, but Lauren helped me identify that. Not only did she make changes to my meal plan to help bring in some foods that wouldn't upset my digestive system as much as things were, but she also wrote me a brand new nutrition protocol in terms of supplementation. And I kid you not, guys, I'm still on the recommendations she gave for me over a month ago, but I was feeling better in 24 hours. That is not an ad, guys. That is me telling you that I've had really excellent experiences with everyone I've come in contact with from this organization. Regardless of what you hope to achieve in terms of your health and fitness, they will have the right coach and the right program for you. And to be honest, I just couldn't be more excited and more pumped up to be a partner with Atlas Nutrition for the season sponsorship. And the reason is because they uphold the failing forward mentality. Whether it's to the coaches they employ or the clients they support, they prioritize the importance of properly feeding the mind, body, and soul. And we talk about that all the time on this program, guys. It's not just about what you're doing physically, the information you're reading, the podcast you're listening to. You have to really attack it from all sides. It's about everything you absorb. They understand that growth and development comes from more than just nutrition. It's what you're feeding your mind, your body, and your soul. If you're searching for accountability, education, and guidance in pursuit of improving your physical health, I would absolutely recommend contacting their team. You can reach them at atlasnutritionllc.com or visit them on Instagram at atlasnutritionofficial. Remember, tell them Jared from Failing Forward sent you. Guys, if you're ready to take your physical health and fitness and make it your number one priority, then they're ready to make you theirs. Reach Atlas Nutrition today, guys. I promise you won't regret it. Okay, so you've had this idea in your head. You know there's a purpose here. You don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So how did we get to
Yeah.
where you are now in terms of a coach and a leader?
Yeah, so I just when I ended up moving back to Colorado, which was extremely scary because
Sure.
I had separated myself from everything here.
And we have a way of attaching emotions to places.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We have a hard time revisiting areas that we didn't do so well in.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
That's definitely a very real thing.
Yeah.
So that's understandable.
And I knew when I was contemplating on coming back, I knew I had to come back as a part of my recovery because I had much forgiveness to do. And when I say that, and I really hope that in this part, um, you know, forgiveness is not often talked about. But it was another piece of a huge part of my transforming. And that is not only forgiving other people and asking for forgiveness from them because I had spent years and years and years hurting people. Um, and then in turn, I had a lot of hurt that had happened to me. And but I needed that to heal, and not only did that have to happen in order for me to move forward in my transformation, but one of the biggest pieces is in sight of all of that was me forgiving myself. Forgiving myself because what was holding me back so much for a time there is that I was every single day, um, I hated myself. I hated myself for the decisions I'd made and for the things that I had done and the people I had hurt. And I that hate for myself was keeping me in that same place. And so moving back here truly was me stepping into forgiveness in all areas of my life. And I truly believe that for people to transform their lives, they have to forgive. And most importantly, forgive themselves. Because in anything in life, there have been things that we have done in life that, we are waking up and we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and those are things that we those weights that we carry as we can forgive ourselves, those weights will be lifted from us,
Mhm.
right? How many times maybe somebody stepped and looked in the mirror and told themselves like, "God, you're so," told them they're fat, talked about, how much they hate themselves for whatever reason or how
Mhm.
mad they are that they're so dumb that they said that thing to that person. We talk worse to ourselves and are worse, to ourselves than we are to anybody else most of the time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, stepping into coming here really was a part of that, and I grew a lot in that time.
I'm sure.
And so, started working, different jobs, waitressing tables, but right away I stepped in at working out at a 24-hour fitness, and I asked right away what I could do there.
Mhm.
Was it working the front desk?
Just wanna get
Whatever.
your foot
I
in the
just
door.
wanted to get my foot in the door. And so I started into that. And I just started teaching, like, a cycling class,
Mhm.
and then it really grew from there. I went back to school. I spent time, in doing that and really everything that I needed to do, like, I would talk to anybody and everybody. I'd be like, "Alright, how did you get to where you are? What did you do?" And whatever they did, I asked people to mentor me. I remember, like, just even teaching a cycling class. I mean, I I would ask anybody and everybody because I wanted to make this happen so bad. So I did that. I've worked in gyms for many years. Becoming a personal trainer, then working into nutrition with people. It just kind of evolved over time. And Eventually, the fitness festival, the idea of that really had always, like, it was in my mind, but I had no idea how it was going to happen. And they built the CSU stadium. And when they built the CSU stadium, I was like, "Finally, Fort Collins has a place to create something that I really had in my head that I wanted to bring."
Can I ask you something about that specifically?
Yeah.
When that, idea originated,
Mhm.
was it essentially what it was when it happened, or was it a different idea? Like, I'm just curious, like, did it continue to evolve over time, or was your idea what it actually was in existence?
Oh, no. Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely evolved. I went into the CSU stadium and I asked them if I could rent out the field.
Uh-huh.
And they were, that was a whole thing in itself, but, from there, it truly it grew into what it's become now, and that's that, like, eventually that first year, I was renting out the field, and then I got so many people who were interested in joining it because
Mhm.
everybody was like, "This is this is what I wanna do too, let's
Yeah.
go." So it like, was the concourse I had rented out, and then before I knew it, I had the whole entire stadium rented out, and then before I knew it, I had all the streets around it rented out and, shut down, and this was the first year, and honestly, it was far bigger and greater than I could have ever that was in my vision,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, so we did that the first year. And it really we ended up having to move out of the stadium, mostly because a stadium is not really a great place for it separates so many people out. Like, if you're in the concourse, you don't really feel what's going on the field,
Sure.
right? And if you're outside on the streets, you don't feel what's going on inside. The vision really is to bring people together and for us all to feel this joy,
Mhm.
right? And when you separate it out so much, it just didn't work out that well. So we ended up moving it to downtown Fort Collins and ended up having to cancel it this year.
Mhm.
But, the second year really it truly had evolved a lot, and I was really excited to bring it back this year, but we are coming back in 2021.
And you have plans to expand to some other
Yeah.
states, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
So first we'll expand to Arizona.
That's great.
Yeah.
And for those of you who weren't really following that, the Fort Collins Fitness Festival is this immaculate event
Mm.
bringing in anyone and everyone involved or enthusiastic
Mhm.
about fitness and health.
Exactly.
It's large gyms, small gyms,
Mhm.
nutrition companies, apparel companies, really anyone who provides energy and innovation and enthusiasm in that space.
Mhm.
Rachel's bringing all these people together in one very large space
Mhm.
and allowing people to interact, to network, to get
Mhm.
to know each other, to learn from each other. And it is a very energetic environment. Like, I honestly don't know if I've experienced something quite like it before. And with my other company, I've had opportunities to be at fitness expos like in LA and like all these
Mhm.
different places. And I think it's a similar feeling,
Mhm.
but I would honestly place what I felt at something like the Fort Collins Fitness Festival above that. Because
Wow, thank you.
I mean that really, really genuinely, because
Mhm.
when you're at an expo, it's a different energy because there's some competitiveness going on. There's these booths that are like, no, my booth is bigger, and it's another company across the aisle,
Mhm.
and they're like, my booth is bigger, like, and they're literally
Mhm.
competitors. They both offer like supplements or apparel, and they're competitors in a very real world. But for some reason, I did not feel that negative energy
Mhm.
at the Fort Collins Fitness Festival, even though there were multiple gyms or
Mhm.
businesses like that right across the street from each other. It there didn't, at least that's what I felt. It didn't
Mhm.
feel like there was this negative, "No, I'm better" energy.
Mhm.
It was just everyone was there to enjoy being there.
Mhm. Well, I'm very happy to hear that's what you felt
Yeah.
because that is a million percent the vision behind it and of that and I really feel like this vision is why you felt that way and that is because anybody and everybody is welcome. This
Mhm.
when I was talking to a marketing team about the fitness festival, they were talking about the type of person that would attend and kind of what they were bringing to the table is the athlete who loves to go work out, and da, da, da. I said, "No,
They wanted to
that's"
pigeonhole you, didn't they?
yeah, and I
They
said,
wanted to put you in a
"That's
box.
not that's not the fitness festival."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, those are the people who are gonna attend," and I said, "No." I said, "My vision is that I want anybody and everybody to attend. I
Mhm.
want people who are just curious about fitness or different things in health and wellness to attend, who I want anybody, I don't care what size they are, I don't care how much they work out, I want them to come because if you remember at the my story, I wanted to bring this joy to people who I felt like were searching for it and needed it. And that
Mhm.
is so much of how the fitness festival was born. Yes, I love when anybody who loves fitness comes and enjoys the festival. Absolutely. But my heart freaking explodes when somebody walks in there and was just feeling lost in some way or feeling like they needed to find happiness or, they're searching for this. And they walk in there and they're uplifted and they feel that joy in some way, like, boom, mission met.
Mhm. And
Like,
that's I think exactly why I felt what I felt there, because that's what you intended it to be.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I can't say it any better than that. I think when you do look at these big, supplement, fitness expos, it's a very specific person who goes, and it's
mhm,
not hard to see that. There's very much demographic that feels comfortable going.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of demographics who likely wouldn't.
Mhm.
You don't feel that at the Fort Collins Fitness Festival at all. And that's 100% why I experienced that experience while I was there, because that is what you intended us to,
Mhm.
as visitors, as guests, as um, you know, vendors. Um, and I really, really applaud you for what you've done there. And I know it's going to be just monumental when all this stuff subsides and you can really
Yeah.
continue that momentum and continue that those ideas that you have for what it can be.
Mhm.
Because there's so many people that can benefit from an environment like that. There really is. Wow. I feel like we've already uncovered so much and we haven't even
Mhm.
gotten through like half of what I wanted to go through. But what I do want to make sure we do have time for is who you are in terms of a coach now.
Mhm.
And you're a very unique coach.
Mhm.
And this intrigued me a lot because any of my listeners would probably be able to understand this, even if you're not in the health and fitness space. There's not a huge, broad variety of nutrition coaches out there. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, some of them do separate themselves from the crowd by providing different resources, um, having a different form of education, whatever the case may be. But you take a very unique approach with your clients. One being that you only take certain clients.
Mhm.
That I think is one of the biggest indicators of why you do separate yourself from the crowd so significantly. Because someone who is just looking to have a fitness coach, someone who really isn't battling other aspects of their life,
Mhm.
as you've told me in the past, isn't really someone you're going to set aside time to work with.
Mhm.
Can you explain why that is and who your ideal client is and why?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, typically people come to me for weight loss.
Mhm.
So that's, them coming to me for that just like they would any other coach. That's pretty normal, but what I tend to attract and also are the people that I really want to work with are people who are going to step into the full transformation. So it really is not nutrition and fitness is of course a part of it. But a big part of it is helping them transform from the inside out. So working on the mental and emotional aspect
Mhm.
of transformation. I had actually a lady call me the other day, and she was, inquiring about my services. She said she want to lose 25 pounds, and she's having this conversation. I'm asking her questions, and she said, I'm, I'm a mom, and I'm at home with my kids all the time, and I just, I don't, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stick to this program. And she's just going kind of on and on, saying a lot of the things that a lot of people think and say
Mhm.
when they can't lose the weight or don't know how. But I just kept asking her questions, and and really what it came down to is that uh she had, and this happens to a lot of people, is she had lost her self-integrity over um many years of change and in becoming a mom. And
Mm.
none of those things that have happened in her life, they're just a part of her life, right? And it's not bad to be a mom. I mean, this there's just different changes that happen in our lives that bring us to where we are, right? And for her, it was that she had completely lost her self-integrity. And so, although she came to me because she thought, I just need to figure out what I need to eat and do for workout, I told her, you know what? You've told me you've already worked with a ton of other coaches, and you're trying to figure out, you don't think this nutrition plan works. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. Your problem is that you have lost your self-integrity, and until you fix your behaviors and your habits, until you fix what's going on inside of you, it doesn't matter if you're on keto, It doesn't matter if you're to a vegan diet. It none of that matters because 'cause you're not gonna stick with any of it.
Mhm.
You need to fix what's going on inside of you." And she just listened to me for a minute, and she goes, "You're right." She goes, "I just always thought it was I just need to find the right nutrition and fitness program." And I said, "No, but you are the perfect person that I do like to work with because I want to help you rebuild that so that you can create the other, right? So that you can stick with those things." And so that's really what I do. Am I'm not the person you come to if you wanna get on a stage and do a show, and not I think that's awesome. I think that's a great goal to have. It's just that is not where my specialty is. My specialty is taking somebody who feels lost, who in some ways feels broken, who feels like nothing's going to work with them, who has struggled with their weight, who, you know, just is really struggling with sticking to anything, behaviors, habits, and really helping them.
That's the most unique coach description I've ever heard. It really is. Because as I mentioned, a lot of people will do things to separate themselves from the crowd, but at the end of the day, their focus is always around fitness and health.
Mhm.
What are we eating?
Mhm.
How much are we training?
Mhm.
How much are you sleeping?
Mhm.
What kind of supplements are we taking? There's so much more to it than that. And as we talked about earlier, fitness and health can be an amazing tool for us, especially when we do have some areas of our life that aren't necessarily balanced. Um, but you do have to apply focus and pressure, even to all of the, for lack of a better term, lagging areas of our life for things to stick.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean
Mhm.
that's beautiful. I think people do have a tendency to try to cling to one area of life and really build that one area up, especially if there is lagging areas, in
Mhm.
order to just kind of fill that void of fulfillment, of happiness, of accomplishment.
Mhm.
I'm guilty of that in my past as well. You know, when other areas weren't going great in terms of school, career, you know, all these other things that people my age were doing, I filled that void with a unhealthy relationship. And I was like, well, these other areas aren't doing well, but
Mhm.
I have a serious relationship.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to do that. You know,
Mhm.
we take the light away from the areas we don't want to focus on, or we know need work but don't want to, or aren't ready maybe to put, or maybe don't have the resources to
Mhm.
start improving them, and we
Mhm.
just kind of focus on one other area.
Mhm.
And I think fitness can be that for some people.
Mhm.
I think they can go, well, my career's not where I want it to be, or my marriage isn't where I want it to be.
Mhm.
But maybe if I just dive wholeheartedly into getting my body back, or just feeling really good about myself physically, it'll fix these other areas, or it'll help these
Mhm.
other areas. That's not exactly true. I mean, you might feel better. I would imagine you would.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end of the day, you're still avoiding or neglecting these other areas that do require attention and resources.
Mhm.
So I love that you provide an emphasis and a resource for people in other areas outside of what they're absorbing from a
Mm.
nutrition basis. Actually, I really like that word for you, because you are focused on what they're absorbing,
Yeah.
but it's a lot more than just food.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what other information is going in. What
Mhm.
conversations are you having? What conversations
Mhm.
are you having with yourself?
Yeah.
What other things can we be doing to bring everything up together?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
that's so unique. And I love how passionate you are about that goal. Like, like I said before, you can feel it. And I recognized that during our first call together.
Mhm.
I recognize it even more now. And I know whether it's you as a transformation expert, you
Mhm.
as a um, monumental event planner, you know, in
Mhm.
terms of that as well. I know your purpose that you've attached to your life is going to be what continues to allow you to be successful in those areas.
Mhm.
Um, and there's just so much that can be learned from you, honestly.
Well, thank you. I
You're welcome.
I'm grateful to have, been here to be able to share some of that, you know, uh, and I hope people were able to take some stuff away today that
I
they can.
absolutely, I'm sure they can. I'm sure
Mhm.
they can. Wow. And what's funny is, and I said this earlier, like we've been kind of been on the same wavelength. We've got
Mhm.
similar stories. We've had similar or internal conversations. Um, but what's funny is what you did with 24-hour fitness. You're like, hey, I know like this is something I need to keep following this and get my foot in the door. I did the same
Mhm.
thing, but mine was with Gold's Gym.
Mhm.
But I did the same thing. They weren't hiring personal trainers, so I did the overnight shift, front desk, 10
Okay.
p.m., 5 a.m. for a year and a half. And I was
Nice.
like, hey, this is what I got to do for managers to start noticing me and know that when a personal training position opens up, I'm your guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so, when you
Do
started
what
telling the
it
story, I was like,
takes.
whoa. I was like, this is getting weird. But there's, what I want really our listeners to take away from this, if anything, which I'm sure most people have more than enough information from this conversation already, is that one, there's impact and there are potential benefits in that deep dark space we
Mhm.
all go to from time to time.
Mhm.
It's a matter of, are we spending enough time in it to understand the learning opportunity that is there?
Mhm.
Are we open-minded enough to do so?
Mhm.
And two, I almost want to say it's just the ability to believe in that purpose that we each identify for ourselves.
Mhm.
Purpose is scary, not just in terms of creating it, identifying it, finding it, whatever term you want to use.
Mhm.
Like that and alone provides a lot of anxiety for people, I think, because I think a lot of us have trouble identifying what it is for ourselves.
Mhm.
But even once you feel you found it,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of discomfort in acknowledging that it's yours.
Mhm.
Would you agree
Mm.
with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you still kind of have that natural, what will people think of me conversation, that why do I think I'm the one that deserves this purpose? At least that's
Mhm.
my interpretation. I've had those conversations with
Oh, I
myself.
agree.
Um, and those are scary conversations to have. Identifying your purpose or stating something as your purpose, even if it's just yourself, it's a very impactful conversation to have.
Mhm.
Even again, if it's just with yourself. But I think the one of the best things you can do is try it on.
Mhm.
Try that statement out. If it feels good, if there's something about it that drew you to it and it kind of felt good saying it to yourself,
Mhm.
try it on.
Mhm.
Like you said, you might not know where to go with it at first, but chances are you maybe have an idea of
Mhm.
at least where that first step is.
Mhm.
Take the first step. Keep seeing how it feels. Let it evolve.
Mhm.
Let life and the experience you have and the conversations you have continue to let that purpose grow.
Mhm.
Um, because if you're just gonna state it and not move forward with it or move in any direction for that matter,
Mhm.
what good is it doing? I think, and this is just me. I think everyone's purpose in some way ties to service of others.
Mhm.
That's just where I'm at in my life right now with my experiences. But I think we all have this natural tendency to want to help people in
Mhm.
some form. And if that is true,
Mhm.
what good does it do to hold on to it for ourselves?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
Um,
Agree.
but as we were talking
Mm.
about before we started, we have to be willing to step into a little discomfort initially.
Mhm.
I mean, you stepped into a lot of discomfort very early in life. Um, Not even in terms of the addiction you experienced, but in making the decision to go to Hawaii.
Mhm.
That was a huge step.
Mhm.
Huge step. Now
Mhm.
you're in Hawaii, things feel a little more normal, a little more comfortable.
Mhm.
Took another one, you went to the gym.
Mhm.
Took another one, you went to spin class.
Mhm.
Took another one, you started having that internal
Mhm.
conversation of there's purpose here.
Mhm.
You took another one and said, I'm going back to Colorado. I'm going back to a
Mhm.
place of discomfort.
Mhm.
You took another one and said, I'm gonna have these forgiveness conversations with myself and with others.
Mhm.
And it's like you're following your own trail of discomfort breadcrumbs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of putting
You
it.
know? And I actually haven't I'm kind of walking myself through this now because I haven't had this, like, visual analogy myself before.
Mhm,
I've always, not always, but for the last few years, I've been a very big believer in steering into discomfort, steering into stress,
mhm,
steering into depression, steering into those uncomfortable situations
mhm,
because that's where growth lies. That's where
mhm.
development lies. But for some reason, your story hit me a little different, and it almost was like you were following this trail that was ahead of you. You didn't know where it was leading,
Mhm,
but you kind of kept seeing that next breadcrumb. You saw this
mhm,
next opportunity for discomfort.
mhm.
And look where it's led you.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning that I said you'd really hear throughout my story, and you just brought it together right there. And that is it was small changes over time. And, if I always want people to know when they hear my story is that, you know, I wherever you're at right now and whatever you wanna create or whoever you wanna be or whatever you wanna change, that is absolutely available to you.
Hmm.
And you know, coming from being a homeless heroin addict who had struggled those losses and being able to change my life, maybe, you can't connect to exactly that story, but wherever you're at right now, you are searching for maybe something better, for something different, for something more. And that is all created through small changes. It's one step forward. And a lot of people do not step forward because they're fearful of the discomfort and what's on the other side, the unknown. And trust me, I was very scared of the unknown. I had only known this addiction, and I didn't, even though it might seem like, well, why wouldn't you want to clean up, right? Thinking of cleaning up my life was scary and uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Waking up and being, doing the drugs every day actually was comfort to me. But that being said, is that no, you don't have to have it all figured out. You may not be able to see anything in front of you except for darkness. You might not even know what the actual vision is, but step forward and know that the more you step forward, small changes over time will take you where you want to be. That will change your life. So,
I agree 100%. Um, I have a question now.
mhm,
Um, do you know what the next discomfort breadcrumb is?
mhm.
Is there an eye somewhere out there?
Yeah, yeah, there are a lot of uncomfortable things out there.
What? You haven't had a good year? uh, no, that's funny. No, I know whatever you do decide to put your focus on next is going to be really, really amazing.
Well, thank you.
And I would absolutely love to have you back in the future and see what's changed. I want to know about Arizona Fitness Festival.
Mhm,
I want to know about who you're helping next
mhm,
because I know you are one of those people where it would be a different conversation next time.
mhm,
And those are the people I love to surround myself with. If you have people in your life who every time you're with them, you have the same conversation, it tells you a little bit about the person across from you. But there's also people in your life who you can go 2, 3, 4 weeks without seeing, not a very
mhm,
long time. You get back together with them, whole different person you're seeing across from now.
right,
Those are the people you want to surround yourself, people who identify with the reality that new experiences, new ideas, new conversations
mm.
help you grow, help you develop.
Well, I'd be honored. I was honored to be here today.
Thank you. The last thing I do want to make sure we touch on is Rachel on social media. I know
Mm,
someone absolutely loved you today, and I know they're probably looking for you. Would you mind sharing
yeah.
any social media accounts you want to highlight for any of our listeners?
Yeah, yeah. So my social media account is rachel.pastor.
Perfect.
Yep, yep.
Perfect.
And, you can find me at rachelpastor.com.
Excellent.
Mhm,
Fantastic. Guys, really, if any of this hit home for you today, if you are someone who is having trouble balancing these different aspects of life and you are looking for someone to assist you through that process, I think Rachel would be a really, really phenomenal person to have an initial conversation with. So absolutely reach out, touch base there, see if she's a good fit for you as well. Because at the very least, she's a phenomenal person just to talk to. Um, this has been amazing, really, really amazing. One of my favorite conversations I've had so far, and that's saying a lot because I think I tell Alex every single time we finish, I'm like, "That was it. That was the one, man. Like that's the best one we've done." And I surprise myself every time. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in again. Give Rachel a follow, and remember, if you fail, fail forward. Thank you guys.